It's Saturday of Memorial Day weekend and getting a little later start than normal. It's about 4:30 now. I usually play around 11 or noon, so we'll get an evening crowd today. And you know, I'm expecting, given Memorial Day weekend and a little later start on a Saturday, more of a splashy, maybe buzzed crowd. So I think we'll get into some big pots tonight and hopefully book a nice win. All right, see you guys at the tables. Well, the parking lot is packed, so it's good news and bad news. It means there's probably a lot of amateur players playing, and the bad news is it might take me a while to get a seat, so let's see how long it takes. Okay guys, this is a couple days after our 5-5 session at Parks. With Memorial Day weekend and all, I didn't get a chance to record any hand histories. It's pretty busy over the past couple days, but I figure I'll get some done now. So let's jump right into this first hand here. There's 3 limps and the hijack raise is 235. I am in the cutoff with Ace King 5-5 double suited. I could fold this. Given I should have position on most of the players, I can hit pretty big hands here. I have nut potential outs here. I decided to give it a call, and there's 3 other calls to the flop. Flop is Ace 3-3, so I have Ace. I'm playing Ace King, aces and 3s with the king kicker, and it checks to me. I decide to bet 125 here. I don't want to check and kind of just give a free street. I think you can go either way here, but I think betting's okay given everyone checked me. I can thin the field out a little bit and don't want to give free cards to, you know, pocket pairs and stuff like that. So one player calls and everybody else folds. The turn is pretty good. Turn's an offsuit 5. And the one player who called on the previous street called on the flop, and the one player who called on the flop checks it to me. He's got about 500 left in his stack, and I decide to size down here. I do put him on a 3, but I don't want to scare him off anything, so I decide to size down here to 175, giving me about a $300 bet on the river if he calls. So I bet 175, and he thinks about it for a couple minutes, and he actually folds. And he folds and shows a 3. So I don't really know what I could have done to get more value in this hand. I don't think checking back is really a good play here. You know, I think I don't want to scare him off, but at the same time, I don't think he should be folding many 3s given the action. So we do take this pot down, but don't get the whole stack. Okay, this next hand, I have 8, 9, 10 jack with 3 spades, and under the gun decides to open it up to pot to $20. I decide to repot. This hand plays hits a lot of boards, and I don't have any nut flush draws, so I think I want to isolate this under the gun player. If he does want to get it in, that's fine too. But I want to buy position for the rest of the hand, or at least take the initiative. So folds around to the under the gun player who made the initial raise, and he calls, and we're off to see a flop. The flop is about as good as you can ask for. It is Queen 9-3 with 2 spades, so I have a wrap, a pair, and a flush draw, and he checks to me. At this point, he's got about 400 in his stack, so I pot it and put about $160 in the pot, and he folds. It goes back to him, and he ships it in for the rest. I don't have much of a decision here. I snap it off. I ask how many times he wants to run it, and he says just once, which is okay with me given my hand. am pretty far ahead about most of his range here. So the board runs out 4 and 3, both offsuit, and he turns over queen with some side cards. I think he had a gut shot too, but basically he wins with a pair of queens since I brick everything. So took a nice hit to my stack there, so I reload and add some more chips on for the next hand. Okay, this next hand is one of the more interesting hands that I played all day, and I think you guys will enjoy this as well. So middle position raises to $20. There's one caller, and I 3-bet to 80 on the button with 5, 7, 8, 9 with 2 diamonds, and everyone folds except the 2 players who already put money in the pot. They both call. So the flop is King 9-3 rainbow with 1 diamond, and they both check to me. I don't think anybody has too strong here. The most they can have is a pair of kings. But given I 3-bet pre-flop, I should have more kings in my range. I should have way stronger cards, and I do have position. I do have a pair and a lot of backdoor draws, so I actually decide to bet small here. I don't need to bet too big on this flop, because I'm not expecting too many strong hands to fold. So to my surprise, I bet 120, which is about half pot, and both players make the call. Not looking good for me, and I'm just about done with the hand as I have about 350 left behind. Turn is a 6, offsuit 6, and puts a club flush draw out there. Both players checked me, and I could bet it here or check it. And given that their ranges on the flop are usually 1 pair hands, I don't think anyone has a 2 pair hand. I don't think anyone has any sets. And I picked up some additional equity here, but a pair of 9s is not great. I decided to rip it in here, and I go all in for the 350, hoping to get a naked king to fold, or a hand like 2 jacks with a straight draw, queen jack jack, something like that, hoping that'll fold. And if I do get called, I do have some equity here. Both players actually call, so we're looking to improve on the river here, and the river is a 3 of spades. So the board reads King 9-3, 6-3, with no flushes, no straights possible. I table my hand because we can't run it more than once, and everybody stares at their cards for a couple minutes and they say I'm good. One player flopped a wrap, Queen Jack 10, and turned club draw, so he had me in pretty bad shape, but played it fairly passively. And another player didn't show what he had, he just mucked his hand. So we scoop a 3-way, about $1,600 pot with a pair of 9s, and we'll take that any day here. Alright guys, for this last hand, little history here. There's a player at my table who's been playing overly aggressive. He's playing almost 100% of hands, raising and 3-betting pre-flop, c-betting almost 100% on the flop. Just playing overly aggressive, wide range of hands. So there's 2 limps, and I have King, King, Jack 4 double suited, clubs and spades, and I decide to pot it to 30 here, expecting to get called at least by the button, or by the big blind, and a couple other spots, but that's okay. I want to build a pot here, and I can defend if someone 3-bets. So a couple players call my raise to 30, and the big blind, who is the main villain in this hand, 3-bets to 90. There's a player who limped between us, makes the call, and I have the decision here between 4-betting and calling. Given this player's action, I don't think he has aces. I think with aces he would just pot it pre-flop. So I think I'm squarely ahead of his range, and I want to get as much money in now as possible. So I actually, and I don't think my kings play very well against multiple players. So I actually decided to repot to 450 with about 500 behind, and it folds back around to this player who tanks and makes the call. So at this point I know he doesn't have aces, and the player in the middle also calls. So we are 3 ways to the flop for $450 each. Very low SPR scenario. I have 500 and the player in between us has about 200. So the flop is not good for my hand. It is 8-6 deuce rainbow, and the big blind open jams into me. Small blind calls, which I expect him to do with just about any hand he has, or the limper calls, which I expect him to do with about any hand he has. And now it's back on me. I don't think this player would open jam a set here. He could, but I don't think he would. Given the low SPR, he wants to get he can get the rest of my money fairly easily. Like I said, I don't think he has aces. It's difficult for him to have 2 pair unless it's specifically 8-6. So I think his hand range is much wider than that. I think he's going with any 1 pair hand here and some side cards, hoping I will just fold out my equity. So I actually give it a call here, and the board runs out 9 and a 4. So we're not looking great here. All my didn't hit any 2 pairs or anything like that. I table my hand, and the big blind shows Jack, Jack, 10, 9 for a pair of jacks. So I will win the side pot, and the limper shows 10, 8, 5, 3 with 2 diamonds, and he makes a straight, a 2-6 straight. So he scoops the monster main pot with a hand I have no idea what he was doing with, but I like my 4-bet pre-flop, and I don't think there's much I can do with an overpair of kings and getting about 4.5 to 1 on a call on the flop. So we take a big hit on that hand, and we rack it up and decide to end the session here. Okay guys, it's back, the jack tip of the vlog. And for today's vlog, we're going to go over the push-pull concept in PLO. I'm sure a lot of you may be familiar with it if you've played No Limit Hold'em. Pushing is when you have a strong but vulnerable hand, like 3-betting ace-queen. After there's a raise and a couple callers, you want to push people out of the hand because it doesn't play as well multi-street. An example of pulling is a small pocket pair. In order to hit a set, you want to limp along and let other players come along to increase your implied odds. So good hands for pushing in PLO are strong hands with low SPR scenarios. So as you can see in my hand with the kings, that was a good push spot because I wanted to isolate against the one opponent, and that hand does not play well 5 or 6 ways. Another good hand are double paired hands, hands like queen, queen, 10, 10, double suited. Hands that play well against one opponent but are not great against multiple opponents. Good pulling hands are hands like 7, 8, 9, ace, double suited, hands that can make strong nut potential but also dominate some other draws. Another good hand would be Jack 10, 9, 8, unsuited or single suited. Hands like Queen, Queen, 10, 9. Hands that can make strong hands, but benefit from playing multi-way pots where you dominate other draws. So that is the push-pull concept for PLO, and I hope that makes sense to you guys. Thanks. Okay guys, today is June 1st at the time of recording, which means there's less than 2 weeks until the World Series of Poker trip, and less than 2 weeks to buy a piece of my action for the $1,500 Pot Limit Omaha event at ustake.com. Link is below in the description. I would really appreciate if you guys would buy a piece of my action here. I'm planning on playing regardless, and I appreciate everyone who's bought a piece so far. We're definitely going to cash this one and return a nice profit for you guys. Okay guys, the day this vlog is going up is June 4th. That means there's about 8 days left to my World Series of Poker trip. So I may or may not have another vlog out before the trip, but if not, follow me on my Instagram at JacksPLO, and I will be providing live updates during the World Series of Poker and updating you guys as much as I can. So I hope you guys are following along. Thanks.